All right, so welcome back, everybody, to Off the Beaten Rack. This week we're going to be talking about kind of a no-brainer for me. Some of you guys might be familiar with the actual comic book. Some of you guys might actually just be familiar with the character. But we're going to be talking about The Tick by New England Comics. Should be seeing a logo. Oh, the wonders of digital media. So, The Tick. Cartoon show in 1994, live action show in 2001. I think 2016, maybe 2017, they rebooted the live action show. They have the same character of the Tick and Arthur. That's basically where the similarities between any of the shows with themselves or with the comic books end. The other thing would be is the Tick is always a big blue idiot, and Arthur is always the sane, pudgy, dorky sidekick that talks all the sense. Now, Ben Edlund, I did some research, read interviews with him and stuff. It took him he started this in high school. He used to go to this place called New England Comics, and they're a chain of comic stores. They had a newspaper, or a newsletter, and he did a couple of pinups for them, and they liked the character. I don't think that might have been the one that they saw, and they were like, hey, you should do a strip thing you dig. So he did the Tick at the bottom of their newsletter, and then he did these short strips. He was still in high school. He was 17 when he did these, and then he was 18 when he started the first issue. It took him 3 years, I think, to finish the 36 pages that are in this first issue. Throughout this, there's 13 issues in here. Unfortunately, Ben Edlund only does 1 through 12. He does not do number 13. It was never published as number 13, I don't think. I think it was just in the Tick Omnibus number 3 or something like that to finish out this story arc, because Ben he never finished. He was in high school when he started this, like I said. We're going to see the evolution of an artist as we flip through here. And I got conflicting stories of why exactly the Tick was even published to begin with, because Ben never had or has had any aspirations to go into working with Marvel or DC or doing any other comic books. He worked on issues, I think 2 and 3 of this, while he was in college, and he was going to college for film. And obviously, if you know anything about the Tick, then you know it's been adapted several times, and he's been involved with every adaptation. He likes screwing with these characters, and he doesn't mind. He likes the characters because they've opened doors for him. But he obviously doesn't like he doesn't like comic books enough to come back and he didn't even come back and finish out the story years later. Some of these issues had art tweaked and stuff added to them, and they were messed with and published several 4 or 5 times before they're in the version that you see now. So Ben is just this is a stream of consciousness thing for him, I think. That is the feeling I get. When I read interviews with him, a lot of people ask just how seriously they should take the Tick. And they asked about the Tick as a social construct, and what he literally says is that the Tick is an exercise in stupidity, and that he's trying to trick you into thinking you're looking at art. That, however, totally belittles this book, and if you ever hear him, he says it specifically, it is a parody book of superheroes. So I immediately, when someone says parody book, I immediately think of Super Duper Man or something from Mad, but This is a parody of superheroes in the same way that The Watchmen is a parody of superheroes. And in my opinion, if you go into this series with the same headspace that you have when you go into The Watchmen, where you're reading just a little bit deeper, where you're looking at things just a little bit harder than you do with some comic books. You're not just flipping from page to page to page to page to get it done, to see those big fights. Like, this offers you some really interesting glimpses into the artistic mind behind it, as well as the way that he views the world, and the way that he plays with the iconoclastic ideas of the idealized and, like, because Tick kind of seems to be like what every person hopes to be, and Arthur seems to be what every person fears to be, but they both have their own powers and strengths and weaknesses. It's very interesting, and I like the fact that they have like a symbiotic relationship as opposed to like a traditional hero sidekick type relationship. It's really cool, and like the way that it's played with in this book is extremely interesting. There's just so many great characters are introduced in this. Like, we were just looking at Paul the Samurai. Like, you have these ninjas that overrun the town, like an obvious parody of like all the Frank Miller hand Daredevil ninjas that were running around Marvel at that period, and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, because this is the 1988 was when this started, and like that's the heyday and like the breaking point for like outlaw comics, the black and white boom from the 80s. This right here is one of the best pieces of comic book art ever produced by anyone ever. It is absolutely amazing. It is worth picking up this book alone to have this to look at, because you could spend hours looking at this. It is so well laid out, so well drawn, has perfect perspective. It's amazing. It is freaking amazing. It's one of the few pages, this page and the like premiere splash of the Tick here are the only two pages that really kind of bleed like, yeah, I spent a long time trying to make this look cool. Otherwise, this book reads as like a splash page, and they don't feel forced. That's not what I mean. They just like, they seem to bleed like, man, I really want this to look nice because I love this image. Because the rest of the book is very much a flow of consciousness onto the page. It's really cool. Right about here, we're starting to hit a good refinement of his art. Like, the Tick is lightening up from the real dark appearance that he has at the beginning. Getting a lot more muscle tone definition. He's also getting a lot bigger, bulkier, musclier, stronger. He has like basically two superpowers that are unspoken. Like, he's nigh invulnerable, which means it's almost impossible to hurt him. What does that mean? Well, it means at the very beginning of this book, like right around here, like he is accidentally kicking the shit out of Superman. Like, so much so that like he destroys Superman's life, and Superman retires and quits his job, and like that you don't see him again anymore. Like, that's how powerful the Tick is. So like, he's nigh invulnerable, but his two strongest superpowers are his drama sense, which is like, he can sense whenever anything crazy is happening, and he is somehow instinctively drawn to it. He has these like viewfinders earlier that he looks throughout the entire thing, that everybody thinks he's crazy. They're like the little viewfinders that had the circular discs in them that you could like look at the different pictures, and like he's clicking through it, and everybody thinks he's like just freaking nuts. Like, I think when he breaks out of the institution, even, he has them like around his neck. But he's using these things to like track that. He tracks the ninjas with them. So he's not insane. He just has like a preternatural, like almost, I guess, like a childlike naivete to which he looks at the world. But his superpower allows him to be aware of the world around him in a way that most people are not. His second superpower is essentially, he is like the Hulk. Okay, like, you know, the madder Hulk gets, the stronger he gets. Well, like, the Tick doesn't even have to get mad. Legit, if, like, the Tick is fighting, this, like, obviously this never happened. There is a kind of a parallel, but, like, if the Tick were to fight Galactus, his powers would enable him to level up to a point where he could fight Galactus. Like, that's one of his it is really weird, but that is one of his superpowers, is that he can meet the challenge before him. He seems like a balancing block of this universe. And I do say universe because this is like, a lot of people are going to know Ben Edlund's name from television. And you're going to be like, where do I know this from? Well, let me tell you. Do you like Venture Brothers? Because the Tick is, I'm not saying this like facetiously or to like, you know, bait you into reading or like you're going to see him or anything, but this is the Venture Brothers universe. No joke. Like, Ben Edlund helped come up with the idea. He helped write some of the episodes. He is one of the very few people who has ever done anything with that show apart from Doc Hammer. And it's like nobody's allowed to touch that show except for Ben. And when you read interviews with them from when they were just starting Venture Brothers, they don't talk about many direct influences on the show. The Tick is one of them. This is the universe that the Venture Brothers takes place in. As I said, like, if you go into this with a Watchmen headspace of like, I'm going to look for stuff and take this a little bit more seriously than it's purporting to be. And like Watchmen, you know, it does take itself seriously, but the harder you read into it, the more you see. That is the same case here, because this parody world works on different levels, and the farther you dig into it, the more interesting it gets. Like, if you watch the Venture Brothers, then you'll understand what I mean when I say, like, they have a very cartoonish universe. Yes. But when bad things happen, they're very, very bad, and they're very realistically bad, and they probably hit much harder than in any like serious drama, because they're surrounded by these beats of comedy, and then you get this serious like, oh shit, that really just happened. That is the Tick in a nutshell. Like, obviously Arthur doesn't die or anything like that, but this series, like, there is so much to be seen and heard here in between the lines. It's awesome. I cannot recommend this series enough, just for a number of reasons. And like right around here, we're starting to see like basically like the perfection of Ben Edlund's cartooning. And I'm going to take a page from Ed Piskor's book here, because Ed Piskor said that he's really into cartoonists. And that got me thinking, like, man, who do I read that I would consider like an actual cartoon? Ben Edlund was the one guy that came to mind. You do have like obvious nods to like other universes. This is a direct parody right here of Dick Tracy books like The Crease, Harriet Curse, Eyebrows Smith, Zipperneck, and Boyles Brown. And then you've got this like nod to Boris from Rocky and Bullwinkle. It's like he hits on everything. Oh, and you got the introduction of the Tick's badass war cry, "Spoon!" God damn, this book is just brilliant, man. It's just brilliant. You get so many characters introduced in this series that would go off and propagate this universe. It's like Ben Edlund only drew 11 issues of this. He only wrote and drew 11 issues of this, but this series has been going on since '88 in different forms, like one-shots and stories about other guys and miniseries, and dude, it's so awesome. And right here, we're going to introduce like one of my favorite characters right around here. Like they hang Tick over this pit, and it's filled with man-eating alligators and man-eating cows. And they don't know this, but I don't even know if they say it specifically in the comic, but I know they pointed out in the cartoon that man-eating cows and man-eating crocodile, or maybe it's man-eating crocodiles. Oh yeah, little did Chairface know that the alligators, the cow's natural born enemy. So like they wipe each other out, except like when they get everybody out of the pit, and they take everything out, there's only one thing left, and it's this one badass cow. His name is Man-Eating Cow, the Man-Eating Cow. And like later, the Tick is gonna like retire, or not retire. No, later the Tick is going to leave the city with Paul the Samurai. And when he leaves with Paul the Samurai, he leaves the Man-Eating Cow in charge of the freaking city. And the man-eating cow, that's like not a play. Like the man-eating cow fights crime by eating people. When he fights a villain, like basically they'll find like his leather shoes, his leather wallet, and his leather belt, and the cops can't figure out what's going on. It's brilliant, dude. And the man-eating cow is just awesome. I love the man-eating cow. And right around here too, you get this. Like, look, this right here, in my opinion, end of issue 7, right around this, because probably he's working with so many characters, a vast scale of stuff is going on in this issue as compared to what we've seen in even the vast majority of the rest of this book, which has a lot of figures and a lot of stuff going on. This issue feels like there was just this push, this growth, this explosion, and issue 8 is so awesome. You get like the man-eating cow gets a proper introduction, but you can see like how his grayscale shading and stuff do just next level on this issue. His line work, the way this stuff all feels like very non-laborious, like he's not agonizing over a page, but it's all so stylistically in place and aesthetically pleasing to look at. Like, this book is just awesome. And right around issue 7, the end of issue 7, beginning of issue 8 is when it hits its real clip, which is freaking unfortunate because Ben Edlund is gone by issue 12. And as far as I know, we will never see any more Ben Edlund Tick stuff. There's a really cool Red Eye story here, and then we get the introduction of the Chainsaw Vigilante next. And the Chainsaw Vigilante is, for my money, that's when I knew like Ben Edlund was probably trying to say something with this series. It traveled a little bit beyond the realm of pure satirical parody for like laughter's sake. The Chainsaw Vigilante is like badass for 2 reasons. Like, first of all, just look at that character design. Like there's a damn, where's that spread of him like jumping? There is this he is so cool looking. The character design for him is so badass. And secondly, the point behind his character. Essentially, the Chainsaw Vigilante is a vigilante who shows up to get other superheroes to retire. He does this by telling you that you are going to retire, or he's going to cut you to pieces with his chainsaw, and he ain't messing around. Like, he will actually cut you up. And this world is propagated, like, you see the introduction of him after we see the introduction of all these like villains. We've seen several other idiot superheroes, but pretty soon after this, like this is, I mean, dude, this is like a parody book or whatever, but I don't care what anybody says. If that had been like a Marvel character, or especially if like this had been an Image character, people would have been on this like stink on shit in 1990s, man. I mean, that's just such a cool, like, just such an awesome design. And all of these other superheroes are idiots. They cause collateral damage. Like, you have to think about, like, Kick-Ass in the sense of, like, okay, at the beginning of Kick-Ass, that dude jumps off of the building and his, like, wings malfunction, and he, like, falls into the car and stuff. And it's, like, unfortunate, but that dude's, like, insurance, his car insurance would pay for that. Like, I know that's fucked up, like a dude just died, but his car insurance would pay for that. But what if that dude had been in his car? What if his wings had malfunctioned in a way that, like, they exploded and, like, blew up part of a building and killed a family and stuff? That is the level of stupidity of most of these superheroes in this comic. Like, later we're going to see the Comic Club, and they go out of their way to show you what kind of sociopathic madmen would actually be superheroes, which is really interesting because the Tick and Arthur are superheroes in the most true sense, and they're probably even more pure than somebody like Superman or Batman. They don't even they had no one to like guide them or to set their moral compasses to hero. Like, they just do this shit because it is legit in their blood and it has to be done. And they're, despite what other people think, because the Chainsaw Vigilante tries to get them to retire, it doesn't work out quite so well, because, like, the Tick is a real superhero and he has real superpowers. He's not just a Momo. And yeah, so this is the issue with the Comic Club. This is really cool. So they go to this like superhero club, the Comic Club, and it is filled with just like every kind of insane person that you could think of. This is like a great issue, like, or a great panel, because you got like Friendly Fire, then you've got the Punisher parody who literally says, "I just like to kill people." And this dude uses a blender. Or no. It's a drill, because his name's like drill, hand drill Harry. That's his name. And like I mean, it's just like, these guys are psychos. They're legit crazy. And they warn the Tick when he gets there, like, you better watch out for Barry. He's like, who are you talking about? And this other dude shows up who calls himself the Tick. And he is a not subtle at all reference to, like, Batman. He's just a dude who's, like, beefed up. I mean, he's, like, huge and beefy or whatever, but, like, basically his superpower is, like, gadgets and shit. And so he tries to beat up the Tick. Like, there's drool coming out of his mouth. Like, he's, like, salivating, like, he's insane. And, like, he keeps trying to beat up the Tick. And it's cool because, like, the Tick is nigh invulnerable. Like, his other superpower is, like, leveling up to the, you know, the threat level that he's against. But he has two weaknesses. His antenna, like, they actually control his balance, like they do in an actual insect. So, like, if you fuck up his antenna, like, you can really jack up the Tick. And you can knock him out. Like, there are some references in the other media, like the cartoon, I'm pretty sure is the one that specifically says it, that, like, you're pretty sure that Tick doesn't remember who he is because he's just taken way too much head trauma. And he definitely gets, like, I mean, he just looks slap happy, like going all Looney Tunes, getting the crap kicked out of him there. But he just turns right around and, like, pounds the crap out of Barry. Like, he just KOs him straight out of the building. And it's cool because, like, in this universe, it's so fucking crazy. Like, the lawyers, like, Barry's lawyers show up, and, like, because Barry fought the Tick and the Tick won, like, Barry has to sign over all of his stuff. Like, he can't be the Tick anymore. The Tick is now the Tick. So, like, these lawyers show up and they're like, yeah, you own all of Barry's stuff now, and like they get this like crazy cave, but like Barry's all like naked wandering around the house ranting like a psychopath. He like lives there still. He stabs himself with a freaking fork at one point and then gets struck by lightning. He's legit like, Barry is absolutely crazy. And he gets like the bright idea to call up all of his supervillains and get them to come and like help him take out the Tick, because he tells them that like now he's dressing up like in a blue costume and blah 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 to trick them into attacking the Tick. It's awesome. It's this huge lead up, and then that is issue 12, and like issue 13 is not done by Ben Edlund, and you can tell it sucks. At this point, like, I would really like to pay Ben Edlund just to like actually draw this issue. Like, there's some stuff where they really nail it. There's a couple of panels that are great, but then there's other stuff which is just totally off character, like off model. Like, this doesn't even feel like the same universe at this point. And like the tonal shifts and like the art and stuff are just badly done. It doesn't flow well. I'm not a big fan of the way anything looks. If this did not tie up all of the like look at that. Like, if it wasn't like that much and then I had to read this like 20 pages of shit by someone else, like, yeah, I would legit skip this issue. But it's the wrap up to everything, and like that is the one weakness, is the one like, really, dude, you didn't really, man, you couldn't just do the one issue. I had a bad day, however. This backup story, dude, I don't even know what I had a bad day. Tales Too Terrible to Tell. It doesn't even say what year it's from. That's a shame. Because this, it's got to be like issue 6, issue 7. The art in it is absolutely phenomenal. It's this like Cthulhu, like there's just some amazing monsters. Like some of the details, like the Cthulhu looking, this cephalopoda or cephalopoda or whatever. It's a play on, it's cephalopod. I don't know how to say that. But like, I mean, look at that. He is a cartoonist at the top of his game in these two strips. Like, these are really, really, really nice. I think these are from like the late 80s. Looking at these, I'm guessing like this is right around issue 1 because of the hatch marking, and like, it's cool though because this looks like he's playing with some lighter toning on Tick than he actually used inside of issue 1. These might have been after issue 1, but this has oh yeah, 88, definitely. Okay. I'm an idiot. That was on a page I was looking at too. And then you get like later and like this, I don't know, man. His art has definitely like just tonally shifted. It doesn't really quite feel the same. It's not bad or anything. It just, I don't know. It's not the same. I don't like the coloring on it. This backup story is really freaking nice though. You know, I know that a lot of you guys are probably only familiar with the Tick because of the cartoon series. And I know a lot of you guys are just going to be kind of dismissive because it's a parody book or it looks cartoony. And that's totally going to be your loss. I'm telling you honestly and sincerely, this is a great book. This is one of the 10 best superhero books ever published. I put this on a list with Dark Knight Returns and Watchmen. That's right. That is not me joking. That is not me being like, hey, I found this series when I was a kid and I loved the Tick because... No, I am telling you that this is one of the most intelligent, honest, creative, and insightful takes on the superhero genre that will ever be made by anyone for any reason. Absolutely adore this freaking book. List price, $35 for 400 pages of stuff. Yes, there's about 30, I think it's 36 pages or whatever. This one comic, it is subpar. It's subpar. If you get any trade of this size from anybody, Marvel, DC, whoever the hell is, whatever, there's going to be fill-in issues by some dudes that suck way worse than the art in this one that I'm bitching about. The reason I'm complaining about it is because how strong the art is throughout this otherwise. If you're going into this and you want to see great art, you're not going to be disappointed. If you're going into this because you want a great story, you are not going to be disappointed. If you're coming at this because you want to explore a black and white explosion, like an indie black and white explosion book that people don't talk about, that people don't remember, that is cult status at this point, you're not going to be disappointed. You want to read a good superhero book, you are not going to be disappointed. You want to read something intelligent and thought-provoking and insightful, you're not going to be disappointed. Like, this book can please just about anyone. Kids will love this book because they're not going to understand some of the psychological profundities that are happening here. Adults are going to love this book. Some of them are not going to realize all the psychological profundities happening in this book either. Like, they're just going to enjoy this book on the surface level for the tick and the art and this and that. Like, this book is so strong for so many reasons, and it's overlooked for just as many reasons. The Tick has shown up on the best comics and superhero lists for basically everybody I know who has run lists. You know, like, even back in the day when Wizard would have their top 500 or top 250 or whatever it was, like, Tick always made the list. Always. Superhero and book. And like the IGN, I know he's made their list, like, because they're really big on that crap. Like, he is still around. He's still relevant. This 12-issue arc is amazing. It will lead you to want to explore the universe further, hopefully, and there's tons of other really cool stuff that you can check out. It's not by Ben, but it's really, really cool. I cannot recommend this book enough. Please go out, pick this up, and if you do, get in the comment section. Let me know what you thought of this book. I am really curious to think of what, I'm really curious to know what people who didn't grow up with the cartoon or don't have like a preconception of who the character is or anything going into the series. I'm really curious to see what you think about this character, honestly, and this especially this run, because this is one of the best comics I've ever read, and I have read a lot of comic books. So pick this up. Let me know what you thought of it. If you enjoyed the video, make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you hit the subscribe button if you want to keep up with what I'm doing. Remember, the Tick is, this is 2019 when I'm recording this. Tick is now running as a Amazon Prime series. It's really cool. It's different from this, so don't worry if you want to go watch that and then read the comic, or read the comic and then watch the show. You are not going to have any overlap. It's totally cool, but you will enjoy them on separate levels. Go out, check out the cartoon. I think the cartoon is really freaking strong. Ben Edlund is just a super amazing dude. He's super talented. He's super smart. He seems like a really nice guy. His art is killer. The series is awesome. So I can't recommend it enough. Seriously and honestly, this guy has been, involved with this series for 35 years, and he's still doing creative and original and interesting stuff with it. Deserves some love. So Go check his stuff out. Make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you hit the subscribe button. And if you are going to pick this up, if you got a local shop, support your local comic shop. Pick it up there. And as always, guys, remember, keep reading comics.